Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Inside Scoop. Once again, it's Saturday, so I'm here for another episode. I'm so excited, and I have just been feeling so much support from my past episodes, and I just feel like I'm really having a great time filming these episodes for you guys. So I'm going to continue doing them. I'm loving it. And honestly, I don't really have any new announcements today, so I'm just going to get right into it. Today, I wanted to talk about the idea of just being behind, running behind in life in general, just feeling like you're already behind on something that you haven't even started. Because I think that this comes up so often in our mentalities and our brains. We think that we're already behind when we're not. And the truth is, to get where we want to be in our lives, it takes time. It's not gonna just happen. And every single person who's accomplished anything, it's taken time. It doesn't just come to them. It doesn't come for free, and they had to start somewhere. So if you want to accomplish something, you're going to have to start somewhere as well. And just because you start on something later than someone else does not mean you are behind on something. You know, diamonds take time to form. Diamonds are formed over millions of years under high pressure and difficult situations, and that's how our lives are. You know, there are going to be some people who get that success, get that job, get that relationship faster than we do, but that doesn't mean we're behind. And we need to get that out of our brains. We're not behind, and there's no need to rush. In the grand scheme of things, there's no need to rush on it. We have our whole lives to figure it out, and you're on your own journey. Your journey is separate from someone else's journey, and your journey isn't meant to be their journey. So stop comparing yourself to that. I think a big thing that contributes to this idea of falling behind is social media. I think social media convinces you that everyone has their lives put together. Everyone knows exactly what they want to do with their lives, but ultimately that's just not the truth. You know, you go on social media, you see all these people who seemingly have their lives all put together. Everything goes according to plan, and then you look at your own life and you think, well, they have so much more experience than I do. They have it all figured out. Why don't I? Why don't I have it all figured out? But social media creates this false sense of reality because no one has it figured out. No one knows the plan for the rest of their life. And if that's what they're portraying online, it's just not true. You know, social media is a highlight reel of these people's lives, but it's not the reality. You don't get to see the behind the scenes of the hardships that they go through. You don't see all of the hard work that they put into their careers. You know, you don't see all of those things. All you see is the parts of their lives that are put together. But I bet you if you looked in your life, there are parts of your lives that are put together, that would look clean. And if you took a snippet of those and posted them online, I'm sure people would think the same thing of you. Oh my gosh, they have their life put together. They are so much more organized than me. They know what they're doing. You know, we're all lost. We're all on our own journeys to finding what works for us. We're all trying to find how to live our lives in the best way possible, and no one's perfect at it. And so when we compare ourselves to these people online, we're not even comparing ourselves to the actual people. We're comparing ourselves to their highest moments, the moments that they decide to post online. And it's not reality. And that comparison that we have ultimately leads to discontentment because we think we have to be this perfect person all the time. We have to compare to this highlight reel, and it's impossible. It's impossible to always have our lives figured out, and it just doesn't work like that. And comparison is the thief of joy. I'm sure you've heard that saying, but it's true. When we compare ourselves to these people online, it's going to steal our joy because it's impossible to live that way in real life all the time. Of course, there are gonna be times where maybe your life looks like this social media reel, but our whole lives aren't gonna be that way. That's the reality. We're broken. We mess up, we make mistakes, we don't have it all figured out, we get confused, we get lost, we take the wrong turns in our lives, and it's okay. We're not behind just because our lives don't look perfect all the time. We don't have to have our lives figured out, and I'm incredibly grateful for the situation I am in with my college decision, because I do feel like I know where I want to go to college. I feel, called to the University of Arkansas, and that's something for me that I don't have to stress about, because I feel like I really do know where I want to go. But I think a lot of people don't know where they want to go. They have this added stress on top of them of, I don't know what I want to study, I don't know the college I want to go to, and they feel like they're behind because of that. They feel like if they don't have it all figured out, they're going to be behind. But that's not the case. Ultimately, nothing is permanent anyways. Something my parents told me time and time again when I was thinking about colleges and thinking about, what do I want to pursue once I'm out of high school? They continued to tell me, can't make a wrong decision, because even if you make, quote unquote, the wrong decision, it's not permanent. You can choose the wrong job, but if you find that you don't like it, you can switch careers. If you don't enjoy the college that you choose to go to, you can transfer to a different college. None of these decisions that we put so much pressure on ourselves for are actually permanent. None of them. Everything that we do can be reversed, really. And I think that honestly makes me feel a little bit lighter when I think about it, because it takes away the weight of a decision that seems so life-changing. And it is life-changing, It's a big decision, but we don't have to let it take up all of our mental space, because it's not life or death. The college you go to is not going to decide the rest of your life. If you don't enjoy it, switch. And it's okay. And, a lot of people actually go back to school when they're older. Some people don't realize that they chose the wrong job, that they don't enjoy as much until they're in their 40s, 50s, sometimes even later. But then they go back to school to study something else and get a different job, and they aren't behind. That's kind of the main theme. They can have an older age maybe, and maybe it's not as conventional to be studying at that time, but that does not mean that they're behind, because they're just on their own journey. They're pursuing their own goals. And even when we make these decisions that feel like they're wrong, we can still learn from those decisions. So are you really behind, or did you just learn what you don't want? You chose the wrong college and you transfer, but you aren't behind, because from choosing the wrong college, you learned what you don't want. From that relationship that didn't work out, you learned what you don't want in a partner. From that job that you dreaded, you learned what you don't want in a career, right? We're always learning, and we can learn from every experience, good and bad. And if you make the right decision, we get to learn how good it feels to do that, to find things that fulfill us, to find a person who makes us feel good. We get to learn from the good and bad experiences in our lives, but none of it is permanent, and no one is behind. We're all on this journey of life, and our journeys aren't meant to be identical. We aren't cut out molds of each other. And I've said that in multiple of my other episodes, but it just applies to so many aspects of life. Not everyone wants to be this doctor or lawyer, and not everyone wants to go to, these super prestigious schools. Some people, they want to pursue a career in influencing or acting, and they don't want to go to college. But some people do, and that's okay. We're all different. There's beauty in that. There's beauty in every single one of us, even though we are different. It's like we're all different types of flowers. Some of us are lilies, some of us are sunflowers, but we're all beautiful in our own way, and we're different. But that doesn't make anyone less worthy of love and appreciation than anyone else. We're just different. But, I don't want to go outside and see only one type of flower everywhere I go. That's the beauty of life. We're all different types of flowers. We're all different humans. We all have different joys in life, and we're all beautiful. And you aren't behind. You are not behind just because God has a different plan for your life than he has for someone else's life. God has you right where you need to be. And I can guarantee you that God can use you as you are. You don't need to have your life figured out. And I think this is something that I've learned from church, and it's so important to realize. You don't have to get clean and clean yourself up in order to go to God and for him to use you. No, he can use you just as you are. He can use you even though your life is a mess and you don't know where your life is going. He can use you. He can use you exactly where you are, and you aren't behind. And sometimes God uses the people whose lives are just a mess, and it feels like you're too broken. It feels like your world is collapsing and everyone else has it figured out but you. But God wants to use you because he chooses you, and he chooses unlikely people, and he can choose you. And he can also choose you if you do have your life together, or if you feel like your life is going well. He can use you as well. He can use anyone. That is the key. He can use anyone, and don't disqualify yourself based off of how you live. He can use you, and he wants to use you, and he wants to use your life as a vessel for good. And whatever job that is, whatever, college you go to, whatever career you have, whatever relationships you have in your life, God can produce fruit from that. And yeah, sorry, that was a little bit of a side tangent, but back on just kind of feeling behind is something that I've struggled with, honestly, is relationships, especially on social media. It's like, oh, you need to go to college and get this degree. You need to find your spouse in high school. You need to be married by 23 years old. You need to have kids by 27, all of these things. But the reality is, there's no timeline. There's no timeline for our lives. Everyone has a different timeline. We don't have this cutout of the lives we're supposed to live. Maybe someone marries their high school sweetheart, but someone else doesn't find the love of their life until they're 30. And it's been hard for me. I'm a junior in high school, and I haven't had a relationship before. But whenever I see things on social media, sometimes I can get that in my head of, I'm so far behind. I don't have the relationship like that, but I'm supposed to be married by the end of my college career, but it's not reality for me. And that's okay, because maybe God is preparing me for something more. Maybe this different plan he has for me is better than I could have ever imagined. And for me in my life, that I've struggled with feeling behind in relationships, but for you, it could be anything else. But God has a plan that's greater than you could ever imagine. And I've seen that time and time again in my own life. And he uses these waiting periods. Maybe we're waiting for that promotion in our job. Maybe we're waiting for that relationship. Maybe we're waiting for that friendship. Maybe whatever it is, that waiting time can also build us up and form us into the person we're meant to be. God doesn't use the waiting for nothing, and he doesn't use the pain that we experience in the waiting for nothing. He uses that waiting and that pain to build us up into the person we're meant to be for his plan, for his greater plan. We have to learn to trust that. And that's something that I'm learning every day, and I'm not perfect at it. And sometimes there's times where I'm struggling in my faith, and I'm like, why is he not giving me what I want? But I know that in a year, and 5 years, and 10 years, I'm going to look back and realize that the plan he has for me and had for me is much greater than I could ever create in my own imagination, or I could ever think of. He has a plan for me, and he has a plan for you. And don't doubt that. And I know that's easier said than done. I doubt it myself, but try not to doubt it. Try to put your faith in something like that, because he provides. He provides time and time again, and he will never leave you stranded. He will answer your prayers, and sometimes those prayers aren't answered in the way you want, but they're answered in the way you need. And if if he answers your prayers in a way that you didn't want, he will provide something else that's even greater. And I think I was kind of just thinking of, what's a good metaphor for each of our lives? And I thought of this at lunch earlier of just our lives are kind of like a race. We're running a marathon or an ultra marathon, Our lives feel so long, but ultimately the people who run world record times, they still cross the finish line at 26.2 miles. But the people who run 11-minute pace or slower than that, they're also crossing the finish line. They're crossing the same finish line. And regardless of how fast each person is moving, it doesn't matter because we're each accomplishing the same feat. We're each going through our lives. We're each going through and living in the same world, but maybe our paces for that are different. Maybe some people are starting their families at 20, but others don't start their family until they're in their 40s. Everyone is at a different pace, but it's still an accomplishment to finish the race. It's still an accomplishment regardless of the pace you go. A marathon is an incredible feat no matter how fast you go, because a marathon is hard. It's hard and you have to give it your all. And maybe your all is a 5:30 minute per mile pace, or maybe your all is a 10-minute per mile pace. Whatever it is, if you're giving it your all, it's worthy of being praised, and you're doing something hard, and you're working towards an end goal. You're working towards finishing the race, if you will, and a really good example of that is my dad and my stepmom. It's like this idea of marrying young, starting your life young, accomplishing all of these things young. But my dad and my stepmom didn't meet until they were in their 40s. For my dad, late 40s, and just because they had to wait that extra time before they could meet each other doesn't make their love any less important. It doesn't make them any less qualified or behind because it took a little bit longer. No, I think God actually used that waiting time to form them into the people they were meant to be for each other so that they could love each other well. I just want you to think about maybe God is doing the same thing in your life and in my life. And it's hard. I think waiting in general is hard. No one likes to wait. No one likes to feel like they're in this time where there's no movement, or they're praying to God for something to change or for something to open up, and they feel like God isn't there. And I feel that way sometimes as well. But it will come. We have to be patient. And maybe it just takes time, and it takes longer than we want it to, but we're not behind. And I just want to keep emphasizing that. We are all doing our best, and if we're doing our best, that's enough. This race of life is meant to be enjoyed, and it's not meant to be rushed through. Yes, our life is short, but that means that we need to be spending our lives in a way that is using our time wisely, of course, but that doesn't mean we need to rush through it. That means if we make the wrong turn, we can learn from it. We can learn from our mistakes, and we can learn how to become better from that. Right? And then if we make the right turns, we make the right choices, we can learn from those as well. We can be grateful for the position we're in and the road we're on. Every day we're meant to be learning. We're meant to be exactly where we are. We're meant to just absorb it all. And whether that looks different from your neighbor, from your friend, from your sibling, from your parents, it probably is going to look different, but that doesn't mean either of you is ahead of the other. It just doesn't. No one is better than anyone else. My both of my older siblings, they found their partners or a boyfriend or girlfriend when they were a sophomore in high school, both of them. And so I felt for a long time that pressure of, oh my goodness, I need to find my person in my sophomore year of high school, or else I'll be behind them. And ultimately, I didn't find someone in sophomore year. I'm a junior right now, and I still don't have that person, but that doesn't mean that I won't in a couple of years. That doesn't mean I won't tomorrow. I don't know. No, but that's the fascinating part. God has a different plan for me than that, and that's okay. And I don't need to feel shame or feel like I'm less than because I didn't find that. And the same goes with you. There's no shame in taking things slower or being unsure of where you're at or what you're meant to be doing. Life is hard and it's confusing, and there are times when we don't know the right answer. We don't know where to go from here. It gets hard, but it will be okay. It will be okay regardless, and I can assure you that. 10 times out of 10, it will be okay because God is in control. He's in control of it all. Even before you make those mistakes, even before you choose the thing that you shouldn't have chosen, or you did the thing that you shouldn't have done, God knew you were going to do that, so he had a plan beyond that. So anything that you do or don't do, that doesn't mean that the rest of your life is doomed. That doesn't mean that you're behind. That doesn't mean you'll never get there. Again, everyone's on their own journey. Some people's dream is to become a doctor. So they have to go to school. They have to go to med school. They have to be in school for 12 years after high school, things like that. And it takes them that much longer to get to where they want to be. And it's a long journey, and they feel like it's just taking forever. And then some people don't want to go to college. They want to become an actor or something. They want to travel the world. They want to become an influencer, and they don't go to college, and they get right into that job. They don't have to go to school for 10 years to wait for that. The doctor is not better than the influencer or actor. The influencer actor is not better than the doctor. They're just different, and that's okay, And I talk about this in so many of my episodes of those differences are what makes life worth living. There would be no joy in life if we all lived the same life, if we all were going for the same goal, if every single person wanted to do the same job, go to the same school. There would be nothing unique about any of us. It's cool that we're all doing different things, and it's taking us different amounts of time to accomplish our goals, but we're all working towards our best self, and that's what's important. We're all trying our best, and your best is enough, and your best is important. Your life is important. And if you have a dream, chase after it. If you want to accomplish something, even if you know it's going to take a longer amount of time, you know that you're starting late, you feel like everyone is so far ahead of you, do it anyways, because even if you accomplish that goal at a later age than someone else did, you still accomplish that goal. You can still be proud of yourself. Don't allow your age to keep you from doing the thing you love. And whether you're old or young, honestly. In the Bible, it says, don't let anyone look down on you in your youth. Even if you're young and you feel like, oh, I can't do this because I'm too young. Yes, you can. If God has placed that desire on your heart to do something, do it. And whether you're 60 years old or 10, God can put something on someone's heart, and if you run with it, he can do amazing things with it. Your age does not disqualify you. I'm 17 years old trying to start a podcast, and a lot of people don't start podcasts until they're in their 20s or 30s, sometimes even later. And I'm young and I feel unqualified for it, and I feel like it's hard because I don't have all of this experience. I feel behind. But the reality is, no, I'm learning as I go, and I'm on my own journey. And this is preparing me for something greater, whether that's in the podcast industry or whether that's somewhere completely separate, It's preparing me, and I'm not too young to make an impact on people, and you aren't either. And if you're old, you're not too old to make an impact on people. I believe that regardless of your age, you have the opportunity to impact the people around you, and you have the opportunity to chase after your goals. And even if you're 80 years old, maybe your goal becomes to be the best grandma or grandpa for your grandkids. Maybe that's your goal, and you can still accomplish that, right? You can have a goal at any point in your life, and you can be pursuing that with everything you have. You have the opportunity to work towards a better version of yourself every single day until the day that you take your last breath. And I believe that was everything in my being. As long as you have breath in your lungs, chase after what you want. Don't let your age define that. You're not too old. You're not too young. You are exactly where you need to be to chase after those things. So if you want to do something, do it, and do it with everything you have. Yeah, that's pretty much all I've got. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I know I have. I am continuously working on this in my own life because I don't want to live my life constantly feeling like I'm behind or like I'm not qualified enough for something, because I am, and you are too. So dream big and chase your dreams and allow God to do the rest. If you enjoyed this episode, please give me a follow. Share it with your friends or family who you think would enjoy this as well. I've absolutely loved my time with you guys today, and I will see you guys in the next episode.